government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government, the government, it's the government, it's the government.
I'm Rose, hail from the parish of St. Ann, come to Kingston, 1972, as a young little teenager girl. Things were really good them time there, when I just come at town. Things good. I could have pay my rent, buy me little food and but no, it worse.
Greater collaboration is needed if poverty is to be eradicated worldwide.
Jamaicans are poorer than they were 2 years ago, with 10% living in extreme poverty.
Go to Coronation Market to buy, where Coronation is cheap one time when they carry $200 go there, go buy, you can't come back with 2 big bags of something. You go in a supermarket with $300 or $400, you can carry home 2 big bags of grocery. Now that not there again.
The things went up so high that when you go to the supermarket, there's no money for you to spend.
Yam go up to $180 a pound, and that is Coronation Market. Tomato, $500 a pound. Now we think things will be a little better. We are looking for things now shine. Couple years now, about 4 or 5 years, we are looking for things shine up, and we are going all right. And said things are going to go down. Things go for the worse. Little sugar, water, and little piece of bread for go with bed. That can't work. All the pit them, we try to get them out of malnutrition. We work hard to get them, the little pit them when they born, to get them out of malnutrition. And now, in this state here, them are going to get we are going to have a lot of pit again, malnourished. We are going to dead for hungry. We are going to dead for hungry. We can't afford this system at all. And it now gone away.
Families along the St. Mary St. Catherine border who are living in squalor.
Last year, like November, the rainfall and all like tear down.
Make something more accommodating, but the funds is kind of low.
Russia and Ukraine are raise oil. Them are raise flour. Them are raise chicken. Them are raise everything now. We want better in this country right now.
The little work and the little pay, it can't suffice nothing.
Jamaican economist and professor Dr. Andre Horton has been a strong advocate for livable wages in Jamaica.
The minimum wage, when you think about it, it is compensation to motivate those of us with the least amount of skills, education, experience to do work, you know. So it is normally paid to people in low-skill jobs like a man who does security work or a housekeeper or a gardener or a man who does a particular pack of bags at the supermarket, these type of jobs. When you look at this compensation and you compare it to other countries around the Caribbean, it is way below their minimum wage, which is the minimum that you need to survive. So when you talk about minimum wage, you want minimum wage to be juxtaposed against cost of living.
Minister of Labour Carl Samuda announced that effective April 1st, 2022, Jamaica's minimum wage would move from 7,000 Jamaican dollars per 40-hour work week to 9,000 Jamaican dollars. 9,000 Jamaican dollars is equivalent to an American making $54 for a 40-hour work week. The announcement came only a few days after the Bank of Jamaica warned to expect price increase due to inflation. Since the increase, Jamaicans have seen a rise in gas and food prices.
We want better living right now. Better living. Forget where we can live good. Live in peace now we had. Get good feet. We have money can buy good food. We have money can pay our rent. We have money can pay our light bill. But at the moment, we can't pay nothing, you know, nothing we can do. We cannot do nothing, and we don't want nobody to vindicate for little poor class of people. Who have vindicate for we? They have vindicate for them big friends when they got up a hill. But them can't go in a supermarket, we then check. We then check book on them big money and pay. What we are going to do? We just little small fry. We can't do that with $9,000. But hold on now. God bless United States of America. God bless Canada, God bless England, and the little other country them. We're taking black people, they can work and send little money and little barrel out to give them people that them can get little money sometime in them pocket and little clothes, little shoes and them something there. God bless them country there. Because whenever them country they will suffer, we dead worse.
Out of 146 countries around the world, Jamaica stands at 142 with the highest charges. There are only 4 countries, Belgium, Denmark, Bermuda, and Germany, that pay more for electricity than we do in Jamaica.
The youths on the street, they need things to do. They left school, no job. How are we poor people gonna manage? Life is amazing, but things real bad.
Done.
Every year, a large number of Jamaicans find themselves repatriated to their home country against their wishes. The challenge of resuming a life and livelihood in Jamaica after an absence which might be as much as 20 or 30 years can be daunting, but there is help at hand and the challenge can be met.
The British High Commission, in collaboration with the Government of Jamaica, has developed a support system for people who've been deported, designed to meet their needs on arrival back in Jamaica. We hope to promote the safe reintegration of such people and their families into Jamaican society, to increase opportunities for employment and training, and by so doing, to avoid any temptation either to reoffend locally or to be tempted to travel illegally with false documentation. The aim of this DVD is to both reassure and inform those about to return to Jamaica that there are free and friendly services throughout the island standing ready to help get their life back on track.
Every week, a number of Jamaican citizens are required to return to their home country, having overstayed their immigration conditions or committed a crime in another country. We can only imagine their feelings as they peer out the aircraft window on the final approach to a land they may have only spent a small portion of their lives in. A sense of wonder at the vibrant, beautiful colors of both land and sea, and the anticipation of a warm welcome from family and friends will be tempered by apprehension as the reality of finding a job or occupation in unfamiliar circumstances hits home. Fortunately, help is at hand. Processing of returnees takes place at both national airports. A brief interview will be conducted by officials to verify the identity and background of each returnee. This is a short process, and before long, returnees will be able to collect their baggage and get ready for the next stage of their lives. It's important to collect Form C-27 from Customs before exiting the airport, as this will facilitate the tax-free shipment of personal effects over the ensuing 6-month period. A key support organization is the National Organization of Deported Migrants, or NODM as they're known, supported by the British High Commission and the Government of Jamaica. The NODM's responsibilities include providing transportation, reuniting persons with their families, and processing queries regarding accommodation and redocumentation.
NODM is an organization run by deported migrants, directed by the decisions are made in the interest of NODM by its membership who are deported migrants.
Jamaica, the most vibrant little country in the world. You will find that the people are welcoming and colorful, and our dynamic culture is always adding new elements. The British High Commission and Government of Jamaica support local organizations in Kingston, Port Antonio and Montego Bay to ensure that those without a place to stay can have food, shelter and advice free of charge. The Open Arms Drop-In Center in Kingston provides free short-term accommodation and 3 meals a day, along with trained staff to assess the needs of returnees and advise on skills training and employment opportunities. Hibiscus Jamaica provides a similar service for women and children, focusing on social welfare and income generation for those seeking a way to support themselves and their children. A full-time trained social worker is on hand to help reintegrate the returnees and help them find a stable and secure platform to live on.
I've started a business. The name of my business is M&R. I sell from a pin to an anchor. You can find everything there, including ear, nail, glue, polish, chicken back, and clothing, slippers. Everything that you needed, you can find it there. And I support my community in a very special way. In the future, I want to expand my business into wholesale, and I can sell to smaller shops around in my community, and that I can also employ people to work with me.
Portland Rehab Center is located in beautiful Port Antonio, and Open Heart Charitable Mission can be found on the outskirts of Montego Bay. Both facilities offer free accommodation under the program, along with a range of support services designed to reintegrate individuals safely into the community. If you don't have a birth certificate, the Registrar General's Department should be your first stop. The process is very simple. First, you will need to speak to the information agent to get a number. Next, you'll have to wait until your number is called, at which point a customer service representative will take your information and you will verify the information and sign the document. The cashier will be your last stop at the RGD. At this point, you'll get a receipt to collect your birth certificate at a later date. The next step, your TRN. In applying for your TRN, you will have to bring along with you your birth certificate in addition to 2 passport pictures signed and stamped by a Justice of the Peace. Similar to the RGD's office, you'll be given a number and an application form to fill out while you wait. When your number is called, a representative will then begin the process of getting your TRN card. Both the TRN and birth certificate application process can be carried out in regional centers throughout the island. Finding employment in Jamaica, like anywhere else, can have its challenges, but there are organizations ready to assist our returnees with job searches or advice on starting their own businesses. There are also opportunities to complete skills training programs free of cost with registered organizations such as the Heart Trust and Open Arms. These aim to equip deported persons with vocational and literacy skills necessary to seek employment or start a business in Jamaica.
I came back in 2008. I tried many different things to find work and find a living that will, sustain myself. I got a chance to go to Heart. That has been a tremendous blessing. I got some much needed education. Would like to back that up with some CXC subject, which I'm still pursuing right now. I have a word game that I've invented. I would love to see that on the market. And the experience at Heart gave me the opportunity to design the board, because learning Photoshop, I was able to design the board exactly as how I was envisioning it in my mind.
What we wanted to do was to get our deported men and women as they return from England to structure a program for their reintegration back into the Jamaican society. We had intense discussions among the deported men and women, helping to come to terms with their reality back here in Jamaica, trying to redefine themselves and then to talk about where is it that they want to go from here. The vast majority of those men and women were not interested in going back to England. What they wanted more than anything else was a chance, a second chance at life to restructure their lives in their home country, which is Jamaica. I can think of a young man who was part of our workshop and, he now runs his own courier business. He does courier around town.
When I came back to Jamaica, I was shocked for 2 days because of the whole procedure, and I think it was rather embarrassing. Going through the whole process there and even by the airport. Stigma is always going to be there, no matter what, friends, families, no matter how they sit and laugh with you, that stigma is still going to be there. So, the best if you can just try and overcome it. I decided to get out there because I didn't want to sit down, and I've heard lots of experiences. So I went out there, got out, tried to get a job to try to take care of myself. And from one thing to another, I started a tire repair. I did some cab service for a minute. I also was working on the bus system. And from there to the postal service, where I started my courier service, which is Quick Runner. And by there, I got my first bike through the credit union, where I've had some income. That's why I invested some money in a credit union, and by working I purchased another bike. And also that's when I started to expand
where I had to employ workers. And it's a team of 4 of us because I employ 3 persons, other persons with me also. Business is relatively good. I've had about 6 companies, and I'm still being recommended as the business progress. I also purchased a house out of all of this. So now I'm also a homeowner, paying my bills and having a steady flow of income on a daily basis, and try to invest while I continue doing my service for the country.
About time get.
For long, the deportees. On Wednesday, the 29 landed at the Norman Manley International Airport aboard a Titan Airlines charter flight. From the airport, they were taken to the
in the U.S. The asylum merits interview is for people who were subject to expedited removal and found to
Deaf ears. Dispassionate, unsympathetic thing. The first day in a country he only has grainy memories of.
I've been with my partner about 14 years. I've been with my partner, we have 2 kids back in the UK. I've got my dad who lives in the UK, and I'm just here.
Do you feel British or Jamaican?
I feel British. I was there from a child. I went to school there. I went to college there. I lives in the UK, and I'm just here.
Do you feel British or Jamaican?
I feel British. I was there from a child. I went to school there. I went to college there. I spent lives in the UK, and I'm just here.
Do you feel British or Jamaican?
I feel British. I was there from a child. I went to school there. I went to college there. I spent my whole life there. Even my clothes, I feel British. I was there from a child. I went to school there. I went to college there. I spent my whole life there. Even my clothes, I have no clothes. I feel British. I was there from a child. I went to school there. I went to college there. I spent my whole life there. I feel British. I was there from a child. I went to school there. I went to college in the UK, and I'm just here.
Do you feel British or Jamaican?
I feel British. I was there from a child. I went to school there. I went to college in the UK, and I'm just here.
Do you feel British or Jamaican?
I feel British. I was there from a child. I went to school there. I went to college there. I spent my whole life.
I'm tired. I'm tired of making complaint.
Okay.
We have 6 children and nobody knows.
So we are the fathers.
The 3 fathers died and the other 3 not help me.
3 of the fathers?
No, 1 father is helping me. Give me something when you're ready. The last baby.
I said 3 of the fathers are dead?
No. I said 3 fathers dead.
Oh, the father for 3 of them?
Yeah, dead. Yeah.
And 1 from the other 3 is helping.
And 2 fathers not help me. But so, 1 is father is helping.
What are the ages of the children?
1 is 16, 1 is 15. The little girl is 12 years old. And this one in here, 9, and Austin is 6 years old. And the baby is 2.
How do you survive? What do you do? What kind of work?
Me usually go to work, but now I'm raising my chicken and do my farming. And people usually call me to wash dirty clothes for them.
How do you eat from day to day? How do you give your children something to eat?
I don't have nothing now. When time the father give me money to take care of stuff.
So how are they with school?
I don't have any money to send.
So how often do they go to school?
That I go last week and go Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. And then don't go back.
In 2018, Nicola came to the school. She brought a child, And she said to me, Miss Pauline, I want to write a letter for me to send to Food for the Poor because I don't live nowhere. I wrote the letter and I gave it to her. But from then, we have not heard from them. And then she always come and she complain that when it's raining, the children wet up. She don't have where for the children to sleep or anything. But after coming and seeing where she live, I really...
all this time you never really visited where she
Right, yes. But the complaint, there were many. And then when I came and I saw the living condition, I said, no, I have to try to do something. That's why I reached out to the Glen.
So this is your room. Alright. So how many persons in the room?
5 of you.
Alright. So you have, tell me what you have in the room and tell me how you make use of the space.
So my time water come down here. So me and me him and me sleep over there and the other two sleep over there.
So this is the kitchen?
Yeah, this is the kitchen.
But realize that to come inside here a while ago we have to come down underneath the zinc.
Yeah, because rain blowing into my time.
So how you prevent the water from getting on the inside?
Set bath.
So I noticed that in the roof, I said the tarpaulin. Explain why the tarpaulin is there.
Because my time the water, this is how bore it. You have to bore it up and the water leak out.
Oh, so when the rain, so when the roof leak, it collects on the tarpaulin, and you bore it so you know where to put the container. Okay. Alright, so the floor is concrete?
No.
So what, or you take care of the floor?
A ball and no man put on it.
So it's just the dirt that is underneath it?
Yeah.
So how the children move around in this space that you have?
Because my last baby, me carry him going further on St. Creed.
Okay. Oh, so they don't have much space to move around out here. Alright. Alright. Tell me about in the kitchen now. Come and tell me about the kitchen.
In the kitchen, so my time when the rain come down, I just hear no more, I can't stand up, I can't go nowhere there. Nowhere there. And up there, so I put my dish there.
How do you end up like this?
My grandmother did live there. My baby father did die. We did live down there, that year house down there, so. And me and him did live down there. But since him died, then so I can't stay down there. I must come up here, come build me house, so then build it and give me it up here.
If somebody watching it and want to help you, what kind of work would you be able to do?
For domestic.
I know she needs a house, but what else have you observed?
I think she wants a real makeover. She need a house with furniture. She need many things. There are too many to name. I think she, you see down there, somebody gave her a little money and she said that chicken coop. She can't afford to buy the feeding. I know she would do something if she get the help. Talking to her, I can see that emotionally, mentally, all the alleys, she's hurting. And you know, I think she needs somebody to love her, somebody to show her that she cares. And that's why I want to show her that I care.
I'm tired. I'm tired of making complaint.
Okay.
I want some help with my child.
How old are you?
35.
What dreams you have for yourself and your children? How old are you?
30.
No.
Yeah, they should have told her to take that goddamn hoodie off. Her son in the background with an iPhone 700. He got the latest iPhone. Yeah, I'm listening to the story. I can't help but see the background. That hoodie, if that thing is real. Yeah, yeah. I got a light Supreme jacket. It's lighter than that. That thing was like $500-$600. I got a Supreme headband, like 250. Anything with Supreme on it, that shit costs money. I ain't never seen bootleg Supreme before. I seen bootleg Gucci, bootleg everything. I ain't never seen bootleg Supreme ever. You dig? So if they got bootleg Supreme in Jamaica, they'll make some money in North New Jersey because we don't even know how to tell if it's fake. Because I ain't never see fake Supreme, but they should. Okay, this doesn't look good for like Americans. They're trying to help out. I'm telling you, we're very judgmental, and we seeing that. We see the home. We don't even know that's a real home. Because a lot of scams come out of Jamaica. But that hoodie in that home, that just ain't matching. That just ain't matching for me. Like, yo, what is really going on? The little boy he's watching videos. Like, dude, Jamaica got free Wi-Fi. The dude is watching videos in the background. Like, this story not really giving. I'm telling you. This might be a scam.
Okay. I want some help with my child.
How old are you?
35.
What dreams you have for yourself and your children?
I want them to come out good.
What about you?
And
Jamaicans are poorer than they were 2 years ago, with 10% living in extreme poverty. Some can't even buy food to eat as they're unable.
Yeah, estimation. We might leave it early if that happens. I invite you in, but right now can't working. But look at that condition, right? Supreme hoodie, living in I don't know what that is, but and to have these stereotypes against FBAs with these conditions, FBAs don't even know nothing about. You have to be a supreme crack. I say supreme. You got to be an official crackhead in America to experience that type of living condition. Only a heroin addict experiences that living condition. There's no Black American. There's no sane Black American FBA woman her age living like that in America. So to thumb your nose up to us is amazing. Remember this video right here? Remember this one?
That's interesting. So let's explore that.
That's really interesting.
So,
I had no idea.
So I have this tweet by Mick Beanie _ and they said African Americans are by far the worst representation of Black people. They are obnoxious, self-righteous assholes that make people's lives a living hell anywhere they go. And then she got like 390 likes.
Is she also Black?
No, I don't know what she was. But
Okay.
This is what she said. Yeah.
Wow. That's really a lot of hate, I feel like. I don't even really feel that way. I feel like that's a little harsh. But I do, like, coming from, my mom would say, because I'm obviously, like, American, right? And I'm born and raised, like, in New York. So I have a lot of, like, culture, you feel me, from America. But, like, my mom would agree with that comment. Like, she would agree with that.
So she just admitted that comment was racist and full of hatred, and said her mother will agree with that.
So you're saying to me that it's literally since 2011 that it was reformed. Okay, wow, spoken like a true lawyer. But we're happy to have you because, you know, today, why I asked Richard to come on was I wanted to talk about, as you can see by the title, the hidden registry, sex offenders, and the laws in Jamaica. So in light of recent events, you know, including the tragic case of a missing teacher whose body was found and a sexual offender detained, you know, we want to talk about just the process of sexual assault and what kind of legal ramifications, or if there are any, and the reporting process and all of that. So I thought it was a really good conversation to have, and I know that you handle a lot of those cases. so maybe too much.
Not complaining though.
So my first question is the definitions of the different categories of sexual assault. So rape versus sexual assault, rape of a child, can you kind of explain that to us?
All right, well, there are several types of offenses covered by the Sexual Offences Act. You have rape, as you indicated. Then we have marital rape.
Marital rape, that's...
Marital rape, yes.
So like a husband...
A husband can rape his wife.
Okay.
But in specified circumstances.
Okay, okay.
And then you have grievous sexual assault. That is where there's penetration without a penis. It also includes oral sex.
Okay. Penetration without a penis. Okay.
Without a penis, meaning you can use an object or...
Oh, okay.
Or
grievous. Okay. Okay.
And then, you know, you have indecent assault as well. You have sexual touching. So you have various levels. So it depends on the circumstances that are reported.
And can more than one of those things be included in a case? So like object, then also penetration, all of that. So it can be more than one charge that's stacked on top of each other.
Yes, yes. It depends on the circumstances. So it might be a situation where, well, rape, as you can appreciate, is when a man forcibly has sexual intercourse with a woman without her consent.
Yeah.
And in a particular set of circumstances, other things can happen along the way too, like oral sex.
Okay.
There's also an offense called forcibly abduction. It might be a situation where he grabbed her off the street, carried her to a private place or in a motor vehicle. It's like various circumstances. So yes, there can be multiple charges for one set of circumstances.
Okay. And how are these offenses prosecuted and the typical legal outcomes for things like this?
Well, it all has to start with a report to the police.
Okay.
So without a report and without a complainant, then there can't be any prosecution. So firstly, and the sooner the better, meaning the sooner the offense takes place, the better it is for you to go to the police station. If there's a long gap or a delay in it, it might affect certain things like the gathering of evidential material, like men, or if there's torn clothing, for example, that can demonstrate force. So the sooner the incident happens, the better it is for the complainant. And there are special departments of the police that treat with sexual offenses. It's called SISOCA.
Okay. I thought that was for kids.
It's not just for kids, it's also for adults too.
Oh, okay. Okay, but then I feel like there's kind of a stigma about reporting sexual offenses, right? Is it something where you can go into the police station and just say, hey, you know, I want to report this? And, you know, do we have proper rape kits? Do they have to go themselves to the hospital? Do the police take them? Like, what is that like?
Well, that's an excellent question. Sometimes there are challenges in terms of the complainant reliving the experience, because sometimes it can be a very traumatizing set of circumstances.
For sure.
And a lot of time, especially children, they're confused about it, and sometimes they're ashamed of talking about it again. And also sometimes there may be situations where they're covering up for someone else that they love and care for. So there are difficulties that way, but you have police officers at Sissoko that are specially trained to deal with children, and they have to deal with them on a daily basis. You also have victim support units that also help with those circumstances. With the issue, you mentioned an issue just now about
rape kits.
Rape kits.
Yeah.
Now, what usually obtains is that when the report is made, before even a formal statement is recorded, they're required to be taken to the hospital for treatment. And that is when they would exercise certain steps in like obtaining DNA swabs, clothing that was that the complainant was wearing at the time of the incident, and also to take steps to prevent them from getting any infections. If it is that the offender didn't use a condom.
Well, I don't think they're thinking about that.
There's some instances
Really?
where condoms are actually used. Yes, I've seen it.
Okay. A responsible rapist.
A responsible rapist.
I've literally never heard that. But so in terms of, but then if, for example, right, it's also been a thing where women say that, you know, they don't get the support when reporting these type of crimes because it's a whole process, because everything is not done in one place. So it requires the assistance of other people, right? So you have to go to the hospital, the police station. So you're saying the best place that they should go is not necessarily directly to the police station, but it's directly to Sissoko would be a better.
Sissoko is an arm of the police.
Okay.
It's a department of the police.
Oh, okay.
So it's still the police.
But they would send you there. So like, let's say I go Constant Spring. God forbid something happens to me. They're gonna send me. They're gonna send me there.
They would send you. They would direct you there.
Okay.
Some instances they may take a statement first, and then and then have you brought to Sissoko along with the statement.
Okay. Okay.
So normally, sometimes there are instances where sexual offenses aren't taken as seriously as they ought to be.
I feel like there's more times than not.
More what?
I feel like that's more times than not. But you can correct me.
But police are generally encouraged not to turn away victims of sexual offenses. And that's why most of them will automatically, once you go to a police station that's not Sissoko, then they will just direct you. You're there because some of them are not trained and equipped to deal with those situations.
Okay.
Whilst the Sissoko police are.
Okay. So basically they're the SVU.
And then basically
they're the SVU of Jamaica.
Basically.
Okay. In layman's terms.
In terms of children too, they're well equipped to deal with them, and they have a lot of support there that can assist with that, like child protection services and so on.
Okay.
So that's the right place.
So the judicial process, right? What is the judicial process? So now, okay, we spoke about what it is, reporting it. Now I can identify my attacker. I'm going through the judicial process. What is that like, right? Does it take a time? Like, for example, reporting, is it an immediate thing where it goes to court? Like, what's that whole process like of after the offender is caught, all of that?
All right, so there are different stages to it, as I was explaining before. So it starts with a report.
Yeah.
Then after they receive a report, they're to send them to the hospital for treatment. If it's a situation where they went to the hospital first, then the doctor has a duty to report it to the police or refer them to Sissoko.
So the person themselves need to go to the hospital to get a sample. The attacker.
No, not the attacker. We're not on the attacker. We're still on the victim.
We're still on the victim. Okay.
Meaning, if it is that they attend the hospital before going to the police, then the doctor has an ethical obligation to make a report and to refer them to the police. But so that's one stage. Now, after they finish with the doctor, then they're supposed to return to Sissoko and have a statement recorded. And then, there are critical features of the statement, such as the identification of the offender and also the situation as it unfolded is supposed to be recorded as is. And also, it would be good if they record a statement from another person who the complainant first reported it to.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's one stage. So after they have to gather the file and gather whatever evidential material they have. Usually after they record a statement, they go to the scene of the incident and also the home of the offender, if it is known, to try to execute an arrest as soon as possible.
Okay.
And then a part of gathering the evidence, as I said before, is any evidential material like DNA, swabs, sampling, taking the clothes of the offender too. If it was, for example, on a bed, that you take the sheets, anything of relevance there. It's really just to seal the case, like to corroborate it. So, and then after that, when the file is complete, they submit it to the court. It usually starts in the parish court first.
Okay.
And then over time, once there's sufficient basis to continue, then it is sent to the circuit court for trial.
How long does that
So
take?
it does take some time. It does take some time. Usually you're within the parish court for approximately 12 months. And then based on the court's fixtures, it may be within another 12 months, that is before the circuit court.
So 2 years.
Roughly.
But then, so where is the offender during this time?
Well, depending on the circumstances, he may be in custody during this time, or he may be a beneficiary of bail. And
so
then,
just a walk a road. Just attack woman and walk a road.
Well,
attack a next woman.
Well, that's under the presumption that he's guilty. Remember, we start with the presumption of
Innocent
innocence.
until proven guilty.
Yes, he's clothed with that. So not everyone that is accused of rape is actually guilty of rape.
Okay.
But during the time, it's not that he's free to walk a road, as you put it. The court usually imposes reporting conditions on them so that they can be monitored.
So like take passport and them thing there, for example.
Right. So the conditions would also include him surrendering his passport, being unable to travel. So there's restrictions on his movement.
Okay. But and
So
then
it's
does
not
he have a
just-
restraining order on the victim, like he can't go near the victim 100 feet? Are there things like that?
It depends on the circumstances. If needs be, there can be a protection order put in place. For instance, there may be a situation with a husband and wife, for example, and the wife is a victim of domestic violence and also by extension rape, and she can go to the family court to get a restraining order or an order preventing him from coming to the house. So there
Okay.
can be situations like that too. And it can extend to children too, especially vulnerable children, meaning those with disabilities or physical or mental disabilities.
So even the 2-year period that you explained to me a while ago with the different courts, that applies to child cases as well. Like it's the same length of time, or it may vary.
It varies based on the complexity of the
Okay.
case. So you do have some matters where children are actually charged for sexual offenses, and they move somewhat quicker than when adults are charged for sexual offenses. Because what you're trying to do, you're trying to get the child out of the system as soon as possible so that they can rehabilitate and contribute to society. But we still have to protect our children, even if they're offenders. We have legislation that protects them, the Child Care and Protection Act.
So even if they are the offenders,
Yes.
they're protected because we are trying to rehabilitate offenders who are children back into society.
Yes, because you don't want it a situation where they get worse. You don't want them to stay in it too long and not be able to complete their studies, because sometimes it affects them mentally as well.
I think the victim is more affected. But okay, let me
It
put on
depends.
my journalist hat and not be the woman I am. But no, for real, like it depends. Okay.
All right, there's some offenses that children are charged for. For example, sexual intercourse with person under 16. You have the typical situation: high school boyfriend, high school girlfriend.
Okay.
They have sexual intercourse. The female consents to it, but by law she can't if she's under 16. And in situations like that, the law tries to strike a balance between both of them, because even though they both consensually had sex, the law is set in a way where the man gets the blame in those circumstances, which is a bit unfair, because really and truly both of them should be charged.
Yeah.
But by the very definition of rape,
Yeah.
it's penile penetration of the vagina. So in circumstances like that, the law tends to be a little bit more lenient
Or
towards
try and assist them when it's
right
because we don't call it statutory rape like they do
in the States.
yeah, with my SVU degree.
Yeah.
But what is the name of that?
That offense?
Yeah.
Sexual intercourse is with a person under 16.
Oh, so it's just sexual intercourse with a person
Person
under
under
16.
It's different from rape because this is an element that one, the complainant is under the age of 16. That's
Okay.
one. And two, many times the male may also be under 16 or
Okay.
under 18, so it's still, for all intents and purposes, a minor.
Okay. So what I'm learning then, it's a very complex
It can
thing and it's a very complex system. But then the role of protection for witnesses in court proceedings. I've heard it said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that victims of rape have to testify in court against their offender. Is that true?
That is true. That is true. But there are ways that can protect certain witnesses who are vulnerable by the set of based on the situation, in the sense that there are special measures that can allow victims to give evidence by video, as opposed to coming in person and facing the offender.
Okay.
And it's just as if it has now been proven to be just as effective as in person.
But it's something where, why do victims have to testify? Like, if there's enough evidence, if all of that is there, why is that still a legal requirement, or is it not? Like, because what's based on what I read is that you have to face your accuser or something like that.
Yeah, you have the right to face your accuser.
Yeah, but if everything is there for say, yeah, him do it, why do I still need to do that?
All right, let me put it this way. Sometimes there may be allegations on paper that on paper it appears very strong, but then when you hear the evidence and you see the witness present the evidence, you realize that there's not much there.
And then they have good lawyers like Richard Lynch who, who can make the case sound different. Okay, fair. I get what you're saying.
So and then sometimes having it on paper alone, it might appear very strong, but when you get the opportunity to really test it, you can see it's not so.
That's unfortunate for victims though, because I feel like I have to relive this thing, and then also I think there's a trauma element that I don't know if the court system thinks about, right? Because as you said, a video, but still you have to. I'm waiting 2 years, and then I have to relive the experience over and over and over again throughout the process of that 2 years. Okay, so now we've gotten to the courts and what's happening there. Let's talk about something that's been very popular, which is the sex offender registry. Now, explain the sex offender registry in Jamaica.
Well, so the sex offenders registry first came about after the enactment of the Sexual Offences Act in 2011. It was never there before.
2011.
2011.
What?
Yes.
No, you need to backtrack to that. So the Sexual Offences Act just came around in 2011.
All right, let me explain that first. There was legislation before.
Okay.
But it needed changes. And, they have been advocated for changes to this legislation since about 1992. And then the official change came in 2009, and then it was officially enacted in 2011.
I do remember that. 2009, that was after Ananda Dean.
Yes.
So that was what led to, and then now, because I think before the person had to be missing for 24 hours or something like that. But now it's no longer like that.
Right.
Okay, so that was a part of that legislation change.
But the legislation, there has been a lot of changes in that legislation. For example, mandatory minimum sentences.
Okay.
So for most of the offenses are life imprisonment with a minimum of 15 years. So the starting point is 15 years. So it's a strong deterrence, or ought to be a strong deterrence.
Okay. So you're saying to me that it's literally since 2011 that it was reformed, since 1992.
Since 1992.
So before that, the man was a rape on a galang. I don't know.
I wouldn't necessarily put it that way.
I saw me that put it though.
I wouldn't necessarily put it that way. What I put it as is that the government saw a problem and it took the necessary step to make the necessary changes.
Them tip too. But anyways, I digress. Okay, so now let's talk about so basically the Sex Offenders Act,
right,
but then you were
so
saying that the registry. So the registry started in 2011 as well?
so the legislation was officially enacted in 2011,
Mhm.
but the sex offenders registry itself was officially set up as in physically in 2014. So and it's being managed by the Commissioner of Corrections.
Okay. Aman, just asking. But then, so hold on. Is it a thing where everybody who was accused was added to the list?
Not accused, but
Or sorry, convicted was added
persons
to
who
the
were
list?
convicted are added to the list.
Added to the, no, even before. So it starts in 2014. Everybody convicted before 2014 would have been added to the list.
You mean prior?
Prior. Or it just fully start where the list started to formulate in 2014.
Essentially, yes, and onwards.
So nobody before 2014 wouldn't be on it.
No.
It's very hard for a woman. But okay. So who has access, right? Because there are certain, now we're in this conversation where the privacy concerns of people on this list, which I don't understand. I'm going to stay silent because I want to understand. Why is it that you have why is the list private, and why can't everyone access the sexual offenders registry like it is in other countries around the world?
Well, the names that are placed on the registry, sexual offenses registry, are in fact private and confidential, but I think for good reason, because we have to bear in mind that even though someone is convicted of a sexual offense, they still have to meaningfully contribute to society, and it may be a situation where they're placed on the list and unable to get work or a meaningful job or schools, or you understand what I'm saying?
No. I'm gonna be real with you, because
there's cultural differences too.
Okay.
It might be a situation where somebody may just easily access the list, see that this person was convicted of, say, child molestation or a child rape allegation, that, well, it's no longer allegation if they're convicted, and then they see them and attack them in the streets. It can't be fair to them. That's double punishment. So,
okay.
But I do believe, though, that the way the legislation is geared, it struck a relevant balance, meaning persons still can have access to it. They can apply to have access to it for a specified circumstance. For example, caregivers. If the person wants a job as a caregiver, for example, or a sex offenders counselor may want access to the list. The members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force may want access to the list. So in specified circumstances, the relevant parties can have access to it.
So you're saying based on our nature,
on patient care facilities, persons in charge of patient care facilities can also have access to this.
Okay.
Because you don't want a situation where you have a person was convicted of a sexual offense taking care of the elderly or children.
Okay.
Or in a school, or hired at a school that caters to minors.
So you're saying that basically there's access that can be given to certain institutions,
Yes.
but then we've heard of situations where these people get work in certain institutions. So it's on the institution to basically request access and do the proper due diligence then.
Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely.
So there are some cases where the access can be given. We just need to so if you do have a situation where you have a business, or you can check if your business is applicable to receive access to that information based on the nature.
Yes.
Okay.
And near relatives or near associates of the person can apply to have access to the list to confirm if the name is on it as well.
What about churches?
Yes, absolutely.
The churches would have access.
Yes,
Okay.
they can.
Okay.
But they just have to show what the association to the person is.
Okay.
So, for example, let's say is a person who's applying to be a member of the church. I know some churches are strict on the membership policies, and they can have access to it because it's a near association. But they have to apply for it. It's something that you have to actually apply for.
Apply for it.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not like you can click a button, go on Google, and the information is there.
Okay. What is so you said you do agree with the law of making it private with circumstance. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
What is so you say your main concern about it being public is the fact that persons may be harmed.
That is one of them.
Yeah. But do you think it's fair then?
It can be, and also it can lead to reputational damage as well.
Do you not think that's deserving though? Like because you gave this person trauma, right? Like I'm talking for the guilty here or the convicted. You gave this person trauma, you've affected their life. So do you not think that you should be affected by your actions?
Well, my view is though, it is not in every situation that someone is convicted that they really were guilty. Innocent people go to prison all the time, unfortunately. So you don't want it to be a situation where someone is still maintaining their innocence and they in fact were innocent despite being convicted, and they have to suffer again by having their name publicly listed on a registry.
Okay. But then what about the guilty? Take out the innocent outside now. What about the people who are guilty? Do you not think they should suffer throughout their life, seeing as the victim now has permanent trauma? Or you think they should just serve this? They've served their time. They've done what they need to do. They need to get back into society.
I'm more leaning towards the latter statement.
Before they get back into society.
Yes.
Okay.
It makes the process easier for them.
Okay.
Because, for example, you have countries you have other jurisdictions that the sex offenders registry is publicly available. No.
Caribbean countries as well?
Yes, Caribbean countries. I know in particular, well, specifically Trinidad and Tobago.
Theirs is public.
The list is public. But this is based on my experience. I've came across people who, convicted overseas. They return to Jamaica after some time and they're explaining what they went through. So for example, there's this particular individual who was convicted overseas for a sexual offense, and his name was on the sex offenders registry there. He could not get a proper job. Every community he moved to, it was disclosed to members of the public that, hey, this person was convicted of a sexual offense. Whenever something went wrong in the community, meaning like a child came home too late or was not found or missing or somebody got raped, there was a break-in with a rape, anything that happened, the first person they come knocking to within 24 hours is his house. Even if it was, and then you have to do a lot to show alibi and all of those things. So it's like even though they were found guilty, it's like they're punished again.
Ladies, comment, because I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm listening to you and I'm like, I don't hear anything bad in that. Because if you have the propensity to do that, make a first come to you.
So you don't think that a particular individual in those circumstances can be forgiven?
No.
A second chance?
No. I am big on forgiveness, right? And vengeance is the Lord's, right?
Vengeance is the Lord's.
I believe in that. However, let us not act like there's not consequences to your actions.
Yes.
You did the action, so this is a part of the consequence.
And if there's a situation where you already served a long prison sentence.
Yeah, but the prison sentence is the land's consequence. You get what I'm saying? The prison sentence is for the system that we have set up, right? But the consequence of your actions remains with you throughout your life.
He deserves to be ostracized for the rest of his life.
I think people have a right. I think community members and people have a right to be cautious of said person. And if should something happen, they have the right to question this person, because I don't think sexual assault is something that you just, hey, I did it once and then I'm not going to do it again. You have the propensity and the possibility to do it again. So it's almost like it also keeps you accountable as the offender to,
Well, I appreciate your point.
Yeah, I do not appreciate yours. A joke.
That's okay.
But okay.
But the reality is though, as I say, it's a balancing act. They don't stay on the list for the rest of their entire lives.
So hold on, what do you mean? Pass for cause. What do you mean they don't stay on the list for them? No, what do you mean by they don't stay on the list? So when you get accused, you can come off of the registry?
After a period of time. I
What
believe
period
the
of time?
legislation says 10 years, but you can apply to the court for that. And the court doesn't necessarily have to accept your application. They can actually extend it for a further 10 years, depending on the circumstances.
So it's not a permanent stint.
It's not a permanent stint, no.
So if you come off like 10 years ago and me go run your police record, me not gonna see
No,
it.
the police record will show that the person was convicted of rape.
Yeah.
But the sexual offences registry, it will
Oh.
be removed, but that's only after application by the party,
Okay.
by the offender who was
Okay.
convicted. So if it doesn't apply, then it stays.
Okay.
And then during this period is like a post-conviction monitoring of the offender. So it's a way for the government to kind of keep them in check. So they have to report there within required times, and they also have to notify them whenever they change their address,
Okay.
and notify them whenever they have an intention to travel, for example.
Great.
Yeah. So they're monitored.
They're monitored. Okay. So once you're convicted of one of the offenses on the Sexual Offences Act, you are then added to the registry. Is it automatic, or does everybody get added, or is there certain circumstances for that?
That's an excellent question, because there are circumstances where, depending on the nature of the offense and the offender, where the court can order that they're exempt from the list. So usually that would apply to children. Remember we spoke about minors being convicted of offenses or charged for offenses.
Yeah.
The court usually exercises that leniency in favor of them.
Okay.
Of minors, and also in circumstances where the penalty is not as severe. So, because you do have situations where the sentence may not be a prison term. It might be a suspended sentence. And in those circumstances, you can ask the court not to record their names on the sex registry.
Repeat that, just so I'm
no,
clear.
What I'm saying is that it depends on the severity.
The severity
of
okay.
the offense.
Yeah.
And also the penalty. So, for example, you may have an offense. Let's say it is sexual touching.
Okay.
And when the court takes into consideration everything, like the circumstances of the offense, the circumstances of the offender, and they said, okay, you're not deserving of a prison sentence. What I'll do, I'll give you a suspended sentence. So you can go on the road, but if you commit the offense, you have to serve the time of the suspended sentence.
Okay.
Now, in those circumstances, the court can use its discretion and not have them added to the registry. But it would not be the same in circumstances where an individual is charged and convicted for rape. You know, the statutory minimum is 15 years. There's no discretion to be added there. You understand?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So it's just depending on the level.
It depends on the level.
Okay. I can see that. But my concern with it is that it's everything based on what I'm hearing about the registry. It's at the discretion of the court.
The discretion is sparingly exercised.
Yeah.
It's sparingly exercised.
Because it's just, because for example, right, even what you said earlier, like taxi companies. So basically the companies need to be applying then for the registry and running it against the people that they hire.
Yes, that would actually
be
a good step to take for the companies.
So taxi companies can, on time, all of y'all, Martech, y'all can apply,
and that can protect the company as well.
Okay, so public awareness, right, and the implications. We spoke about that a little bit, but do you think, so you're saying that you think it's more harm to have it out there based on the nature of our society?
Yeah, there's cultural differences.
Okay.
There's cultural difference because, you know, I mean, we're all Jamaicans. We never support rape under any circumstances. And I'm sure you're familiar with the term jungle justice. You don't want it to be a situation where somebody is fingered as a child molester and then everybody comes down on them harshly. So I think with the way our culture is, I think it would be the more harm than good to have it readily accessible to the public.
Okay. Okay.
But that's why I said it's a perfect balancing scheme
Mm-hmm.
where specific parties or a set number of parties can have access to that information.
I agree to disagree. You have the law degree. I have a mouthpiece. So let's talk about the laws, right? Do you think that there are some laws that need to be updated or introduced to better protect the victims and, prosecute offenders based on the Sexual Offences Act and how the whole process goes that you've explained? Do you think there's some legislation that needs to be updated?
Well, with some of you see, with this legislation, I believe they tried to make it very gender neutral, but there's some offenses that should also take into account the actions of the females. For example, just like I explained to you earlier, sexual intercourse with a person under 16, they both should be charged if it's consensual. And the same goes for even the very definition of rape, because there's a school of thought that suggests that men can be raped too, and women ought to be charged in those circumstances. So there can be legislative changes in that regard.
I do agree with that, because I think when
Finally, we agree on that.
I do agree with that, because I do think there's a lot of young boys who have been molested by older women, but they speak about it like it's their first sexual experience. Like they speak about it like it's a normal sexual experience. Most men I know, when they talk about losing their virginity, is always some older woman, and they were like 12, and I'm like, everyone laughs about it, but I'm like, you're actually a victim, because that shouldn't be your experience. But as you said, there's more things advocating for women and not men in that regard. So I do agree with one thing. So I'm ending with a personal question. Based on the laws and legislations in Jamaica, would you feel that your daughter is safe in Jamaica? Be honest.
Well, the truth is, we have a very aggressive culture, and we all live in a hypersexual environment. You can hear it through the music, what you see on social media, what is exposed to us. So to answer your question, not necessarily, but what I can say is that there's adequate laws in place to protect post-rape. If there's a situation, then there's ways and means to treat with it, but on an everyday basis, not necessarily.
Okay. I don't know. From a woman's perspective, I'll jump in here. I don't think I feel 100% safe in Jamaica. I think that I also live in a bubble of privilege where I drive a car. I've never had to take the bus. I've never had to do any of that. So I feel like also to women who have to take the bus every day, public transport, who have to walk on the road, like
higher risk.
It's a higher risk. I also think that there's certain jobs that is just exposes you more to a lot of men and all of that. Like if you're a bartender or something like that, So I think that, and then the whole process that you've explained, I mean, I don't know if I think I learned a lot, but I think the comforts in terms of a 2-year wait, all of those things.
Litigation does take some time.
It takes some time. So it's almost like, and then you don't know where your offender will be. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like one of those things where I wouldn't say that.
But there are other protections there in terms of, knowing where the offender will be. For example, if the incident took place where you and the offender live in the same community, then a part of the conditions may require him to relocate.
And that may is too heavy for me.
It's more likely than not.
Yeah. But still, it's just like there's a possibility of not. You know what I mean? So I get it. And I think I learned a lot in terms of we do have it in place. But the fact also is that because it was reformed in 2011, we still have a ways to go, because it's still a in the from a legal standpoint, it's still a new act, right? Or
relatively
new. So I think we do have a ways to go. I think that
we're making positive strides.
We're making, I won't say no, we are making positive strides. Do I think it needs to happen quicker? Yes. But I do appreciate, that we do have it in place at least. So, okay. But I thank you so much for being a part of the Good Girl podcast and all the research and sharing your expertise. So
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And we will see you next week. Bye.